Good morning. I feel very honored about this invitation that comes out of many years of collaboration and friendship with you, Beate, and other partners here in Chicago in this room, as well as new friends that we had the pleasure to get to know in preparing this workshop together, Rachel and Omir. The launch of the Anthropocene Lab is a very meaningful occasion to all of us here in Berlin, and I'm passing on greetings from the teams at Haus der Kultur in der Welt, HKW, Bernd Scherer, Katrin Klingan, and at Max Planck Institute for the History of Science, Jürgen Renn, Christoph Rossée, as well as many other dear colleagues. With this, I will try and navigate from my perspective as a project coordinator based in Berlin and at HKW through the 10 years of the emergence of our common project, the Anthropocene curriculum, in short AC. It shifts and meanders from its beginning in 2012 as an open-ended experiment to collectively create new planetary knowledge practices across disciplinary boundaries to address the challenges of the Anthropocene. In 2014, the initial 2-year Anthropocene project came to its end with a report, a series of events, including the first Anthropocene campus in Berlin, as well as the several exhibitions, the publication Grain Vapor Ray, and the program A Meta Theater. To situate you, this is the building of HKW during these events, as you can see from the banner. A landmark in Berlin's governmental district by architect Hugh Stubbins, a present given by the US to West Berlin as a symbol of freedom in Cold War times. Built as a Congress Hall and contribution to the building exhibition Interbau in 1957, it was to strengthen the exchange between the US and Germany, the new and the old world. As part of these events in 2014, the London-based artist collective Otolith Group exhibited the installation Who Does the Earth Think It Is? And their film Medium Earth. The exhibition revolved around the Californian earthquake region, based on a sound archive of earthquake predictions sent by members of the public to the United States Geological Survey's Pasadena's field office between 1993 and 2007. Kocho Ishun, one of the artists, stated the following: confronted by the remote sensing technologies that measure the dynamic behavior of plate tectonics, earthquake sensitives offer a hyperbolic case study of the encounter with the Promethean implications of global data. The sensitives neither clarify nor complicate. Instead, they close the gap between expert and popular knowledge through a form of magical thinking distinct from the familiar forms of climate change denialism. They are devotees of a new geopiety that sincerely believe that they suffer the pains of the earth. Otolith Group's work set out questions that have been driving our project ever since. How can we train to listen to the earth differently? How can we create a new sensorium that allows us to bridge both scientific and artistic means and the bodily experience of the ongoing planetary transformations? How can we come to more speculative forms of learning and knowing the planet we inhabit, from the local to the global scale and from the molecular to the systemic? The Anthropocene is a term originating in the geosciences, coined by atmospheric chemist and Nobel laureate Paul Crutzen in 2000. It describes an abrupt shift in the Earth's history caused by human interference to such a large degree that planetary dynamics and ecosystems have fundamentally shifted. And they will keep doing so at an accelerated speed, indicating that the Earth system has spiraled out of control, threatening not only the possibility of scientific prediction, but also endangering all life on Earth. Markers such as microplastics, radionuclides, fly ash, and many others indicate this disturbance through humans and their extractive technologies and infrastructures. These marks have been traced into the Earth's skin, leaving nowhere untouched. Neither the Antarctic ice shield, nor the most deserted lakes, deepest oceans and caves, or loneliest trees. The Anthropocene Working Group is a group of volunteers from the geosciences and stratigraphy, archaeology, social sciences, and the humanities, as well as an international lawyer, who have, since 2009, been analyzing samples of sediment drilled out from the earth, laminations formed over thousands of years by sedimentary cycles. These samples come from 12 different sites around the globe, from Beppu Bay Estuary in Japan to Antarctica, lakes in China and in Canada, Great Barrier Reef coral, and peat from the Sudites Mountains. Here you see the section of a drill core from a stalagmite in Ernesto Cave in Italy. Analyzed was only the very topmost part that indicates approximately the last 800 years of Earth history. The Anthropocene Working Group are attempting to collect scientific evidence that affirms this new Earth epoch which we live in, setting its beginning date with the 1950s, a contested notion that refers to the first nuclear tests, the radiation from which can be traced all around the planet, as well as the rapid increase of many other markers that appear with the time of the Great Acceleration. This section of a coral from the West Flower Garden Bank Reef that you see now shows this significant shift. This is a geographical chart of the International Geostratigraphic Society. The Anthropocene, if scientifically formalized, will appear as a small section in the upper left-hand corner in light beige. A new and uncharted Earth epoch in which planetary and human history fold into one another, as Dipesh Chakrabarti states. These geological cores are an archive of Earth material flows and processes. They indicate a geology of the presence where we already inhabit the Anthropocene. The stability of the previous Holocene epoch is over. Later this year, the Anthropocene Working Group will vote for one out of the 12 cores as a candidate for the Global Boundary Stratotype Section and Point, in short GSSP, and an agreed starting point and identifier of the Anthropocene, making the strongest possible statement to the geostratigraphic authorities. Over the past 10 years, HKW and the MPI have joined and co-produced this formalization process of the Anthropocene Working Group in a collaboration that began with the opening of the Anthropocene project at HKW back in 2013. Here you see paleobiologist Jan Salasiewicz, the founder of the group, in a format called Islands. It asked participants, speakers from the sciences, arts, humanities, what would they take with them to an otherwise deserted island? You can see Jan's answer. His more than human companion, and of course, non-human agency is central to the Anthropocene debate. This year, HKW closes its 10 years of Anthropocene work with a year-long program entitled Evidence and Experiment, consisting of 2 multi-day events, Unearthing the Present, now in May, and Where's the Planetary in October, the installation Earth Indices by the artists Armin Linke and Julia Bruno, as well as publications on Anthropocene Curriculum.org, which will become an archive of the GSSP research. The geoscientific findings will be negotiated as part of a larger conversation across the sciences, social sciences, humanities, the arts, activism, society. Central questions are, what does this geoscientific evidence really tell us in a time of undeniable and drastic environmental transformations? And what do these archives of the Earth teach us about our political and social agency in the present? To hear, read, and sense the Earth differently, as the Autolith Group proposed, is a core task facing human society as a whole, beyond nation states, constitutions, and Western anthropocentrism. The Anthropocene curriculum considers the planet as a mosaic of different practices and acknowledges that the denial of our worldly entanglements has led to looming disaster. From its beginning in 2013, the AC was an experiment in winding together different knowledge cultures and collaborative constellations across fields of practice, across the local and the global, the micro and the macro. The aim was to create exploratory, experiential forms and approaches to research and to teaching. At the same time, the project was also intended to create models for future ACs that could be adapted in new contexts. Emerging from a series of workshops, the idea was born in January 2013 at the Anthropocene Research Forum and Roundtable at HKW that brought together people from universities, art academies, research institutes, and societal actors to discuss the paradigm shift this new epoch makes necessary for those in the usually siloed fields of academy, arts, and social engagement. What can be considered knowledge in the Anthropocene? How is this knowledge produced? For whom and for what aim? And how, in light of that, can we reframe our institutions and build new alliances between the humanities, design, art, and the sciences? The collaboration was organized in such an, at the time, unusual alliance between the cultural institution HKW and Max Planck Institute for the History of Science, an historical research institute. In creating a space for collaborations and for public debate beyond the confines of academia, the AC reformulated the role of a cultural institution in itself. And it allowed to continue the collaborations to last over longer term. The public nature of these conversations has thereby deeply influenced and transformed this collaborative multilogue, its contents and methods. In 2014, with the first Anthropocene campus at HKW, a format was created to field test diverse topical research projects, methodologies, and knowledge practices. 150 participants worked together over 10 days in 9 interdisciplinary seminars, developed from convener-led interdisciplinary groups. The experimental workshops this resulted in tested foundational notions and questions, attempting to model wicked problems, map anthropogenic landscapes, and inquire into the geopolitical implications of the Anthropocene. To give you an example, the seminar Co-Evolutionary Perspectives on the Technosphere explored complex interlinkages between knowledge and the underlying dynamics of the Anthropocene. It did so by studying long-term co-evolutionary processes. The timeline you see was created by landscape architect Chris Retznick within this seminar. It traces human influence on the Earth, beginning with megafauna extinction and the origins of farming to colonialism and 20th century nuclear weapons tests. From this seminar, the conceptual focus for the 2016 campus edition emerged. The notion of the technosphere, the planetary layer of human-built infrastructure, which has now achieved geosystemic parity with other spheres, such as the bio, the hydro, and the atmosphere. To investigate the technosphere, 10 groups of facilitators were identified through a call for seminars. The seminars explored social, human, and technological infrastructures, techniques, organisms, environments, and possible systemic dysfunctions and imbalances that emerge from this new planetary sphere. The seminar Feral Technologies, for example, was led by anthropologists Anna Singh, Elaine Gahn, and Bettina Stötzer, and took a critical feminist approach to the unintentional consequences of technology, such as waste production, and the heterogeneous multi-species assemblages that emerged as a consequence of human infrastructures. Involving methods from digital art to multi-species ethnography, situated practices such as the arts of collaborative noticing were exercised. The question ultimately became how to reshape thought itself and how to develop non-domesticated feral methods across disciplines. Two important shifts were already clear at this Technosphere campus in 2016. One, the need for a stronger orientation towards situated practices and field research as a means to actually experience, sense, and read the frictions of Anthropocene landscapes, as well as to engage in the socio-political debates and injustices around them and create mutually beneficial collaborations. Secondly, the project resonated so strongly that partners across the globe started to take up the AC model and make it useful for their own institutional or artistic activist contexts. Connecting very localized situations to planetary interdependencies, what we conceptually called a topology of the Anthropocene, became core for the further cultivation of what is now a worldwide ecology of relationships, collaborations, projects, and perspectives. In 2018, we acted on these shifts with a project in the US. Together with many partners, we developed a broad public field research collaboration along the Mississippi River, a water body which we renamed an Anthropocene River. The Mississippi embodies the multiple entanglements of the Anthropocene, its meandering geological configuration that you can see here on Harold Field's geological map, depicting the changing path of the river over 7,000 years. However, beginning in the 1700s, the river was transformed into an infrastructural corridor that transports all kinds of commodities as well as people, while until today it resists the supposed fixity, as increasing flood events show. Over the course of a year, local and international artists, activists, and scholars were grouping in 5 regional zones we termed field stations. They addressed pressing concerns at various sites along the river, from upstream to downstream, from hydrology, agriculture, and settler colonialism to commerce, extraction, and ecological degradation. To give an example, at Field Station 1, titled Sediment, Settlement, Sentiment, the Machinic River, coordinated by John and many collaborators, focused on the stretch from the Mississippi River's headwaters at Lake Itasca down to Minneapolis and southwest Wisconsin. Here, the natural and the anthropogenic origins of the Anthropocene River intersect. The Dakota, Ojibwe, and other First Nation peoples have long centered the material and spiritual lives here, while the US Army Corps of Engineers has sought to manage the river for almost 2 centuries. To take another example, Field Station 4, titled Confluence Ecologies, involved members of Deep Time Chicago, some of whom were present today. Located in the Confluence territory, where the Mississippi and Ohio rivers meet, Confluence Ecologies used field research, artistic, and activist means to investigate the intensive engagement and juxtaposition of opioid addiction and more widespread dependencies on coal and nuclear power, native species loss, so-called invasive replacements, animal labor, and ethical questions about regional terraforming and geoengineering initiatives. The project also involved a concluding river journey, a semester-long canoe trip with students as well as local and international researchers, during which the situated investigations of the 5 field stations were braided together. Over 3 months, the field stations were making their research public in multifold ways to the travelers and to their local audiences, in field trips, conversations, exhibitions, and publications. This canoe-based exploration of the diversity of socio-political and environmental entanglements along the river culminated in a one-week educational event with around 100 local and international participants in New Orleans and across Louisiana and the lower Mississippi River Delta, the Mississippi River Campus, the Human Delta. What you see here is a river model at Louisiana State University, which is used to advertise plans for a large-scale and highly contested coastal engineering project to protect the Delta. In collaboration with Tulane's New Orleans Center for the Gulf South, 6 field seminars and public programs provided a frame for learning about the historical legacies, social conditions, and ecological precarity of the Mississippi Delta. It created a forum to exchange strategies of resistance in this as well as in other coastal regions across the globe. The lower Delta region indicates the shift from a tributary to a distributary system, with the colonial legacies carrying on a plantation economy into today's extractive industries and its infrastructures, and accumulating the toxins of upriver agriculture and the petrochemical complexes that perforate the sinking delta. Here you see a collaborative mapping project initiated by Brian Holmes that depicts the density of oil rigs along the coastline of Louisiana. The development is one of the factors that accelerate the erosion of the delta at an alarming speed. This delta, in its highly fragile and specific condition, connects the river to the international waters in the Gulf, giving some indication of the relation to the broader planetary connections that were at stake. During the River Campus, the seminar Commodity Flows, for example, undertook an investigation into the commodities such as oil, steel, and grain that pass through the port of New Orleans, and the international companies and trading systems they are entangled in. These were traced in field trips on water and on land through the colonial legacies of the Whitney Plantation and Donaldsonville's CF Industries, the largest nitrogen refinery in North America. Since documentation is not permitted by CF Industries, what you see here is not this one, but an example for the countless refineries along the so-called Cancer Alley between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. The seminar used mapping techniques and artistic performances to trace commodity and energy cycles in the Mississippi Basin. It documented extractive relations, chemical syntheses, and the effects of commodity dependencies across scales. Here you see a questionnaire created for the seminar, a playfully bureaucratic exercise in classifying commodities. From the Mississippi River Delta, as a particular critical zone to investigate the Anthropocene, the project then shifted back to Berlin, or rather the digital sphere. Relating the Mississippi Project to a global network of related initiatives at other localities, the shape of a practice, negotiating context in the Anthropocene, took questions of perspective and of context into account during a week of online and on-site events. Of particular interest were the digital means needed for interweaving Anthropocene issues from a patchy landscape of related projects, practices, and localities. With the pandemic abruptly shifting our work into the digital realm, this approach led to the further decentralization of the project. Digital tools, always an important means for ongoing collaborations and for publishing research, came even more to the fore. In a specific online gaming environment, the AC network shared ongoing research and case studies, while connections were drawn across them via seminars and public discussions. Rivers and water bodies thereby continue to provide an important thread. Here you see a snapshot from one of the public sessions, which brought together researchers and artists to discuss their perspectives on working with rivers and their inhabitants. sturgeons in the Danube, for instance, seeds along the Mississippi, and anthropological activist work along the Kills River in Cape Town. All this was interweaved with the projects along the Mississippi River, as events were centered around the exhibition The Current, that gathered the artworks produced during the Mississippi Project, as well as new works emerging out of these collaborations. This is an installation view of the work Hopium Economy by an artist duo who are present today, Geisler San, centering around substance dependencies as a symptom of our destructive planetary appetites. And the exhibition keeps unfolding, transforming, and migrating to different places. Overflow, the Mississippi in every state imaginable, was shown in Minneapolis, as well as here in Chicago at the Watershed and at Co-Prosperity in convergence with last fall's Backward River Festival as part of Rachel's work at the Freshwater Lab. The digital sphere remains central to our work. The project's platform, Anthropocene Curriculum.org, has grown into a multi-layered archive of the Anthropocene in open source publishing in-depth research, navigating concepts and patchy topographies around the globe, and creating windows into projects while interactively documenting seminars, field research, and case studies. The aim was always to develop experimental publishing formats to bring Anthropocene research into the public realm and put it into connection. To navigate this rich body of perspectives and earthly knowledge practices, and to create a body of teaching material, the Anthropocene Courses publication was launched last year. In curated pathways through 10 years of research, putting material into new perspectives and enriching it with current discourses and contexts. The first editions will be extended this year with another set of courses on accountability, through lines, habitability, and repair, registers that point towards the questions the FOR program will be asking. With her pathway fixity and fluidity, media anthropologist Shannon Mattern very much condensed the nature of the AC, calling for an Anthropocene archive that goes beyond the static archives of the past, proposing instead that, I quote, just as the archive of the Anthropocene curriculum is documenting a messy, collaborative process of discovery, an Anthropocene archive would benefit from regarding itself as a living collection, one that captures the lives and deaths of the myriad entities transformed by the planet's own phase shifts. The idea is for the courses to grow in number over the coming years, and that they will be picked up, utilized, and expanded as a material for future Anthropocene teaching. John's Mississippi River Open School for Kinship and Social Reciprocities, and the Anthropocene Lab here at UIC, as well as other partner projects. We hope Anthropocene Curriculum.org overall will be sustained as a growing confluence of Anthropocene knowledges and a tool for research and for teaching. What became clear since 2016 was that the AC was shifting from being an experimental model into a relational network, with many partner projects around the world taking it up and reformulating it. Academic, artist, and activist initiatives across the world were adapting and orienting the AC towards their educational and research contexts, methods, institutional strategies, and local topographies, situating it by taking up issues that were pressing in their regions. Some did so by taking up the Anthropocene campus format, through independently hosting such transdisciplinary forums, oftentimes resonating so strongly that they resulted in the creation of longer-term Anthropocene institutes and initiatives. For example, at the ENS in Lyon, with campus events and projects that dealt with dimensions of data politics, biological notions, and Earth system perspectives. At Drexel University in Philadelphia, with a fieldwork-oriented campus as part of the STS disaster network, the Speculative Life Summer School at Milieu Institute for Arts, Culture and Technology, Concordia University, Montreal, focusing on critical design approaches to mining technologies in the area. A campus in Melbourne at Deakin University, exploring the 4 elements of the Anthropocene. The campus Parallax in Lisbon, as part of long-term agenda of Anthropocene projects within Anthropolands and the newly founded Anthropocene Observatory. And last fall, a campus at Ca' Foscari University in Venice on water politics in the age of the Anthropocene. Some of the initiatives were not so much utilizing the campus format as such, but created other forms of multi-layered public interactions around the questions of the AC in their local context, such as Deep Time Chicago's public engagement to explore the city and its ecologies with artistic and activist means. The series State of Nature in New Delhi and Mumbai, with conference, a lecture series, workshops, and an exhibition that attempted to create a broader, critical environmental debate across research institutes, arts, and activism in India. The Arts Anti-University in Karachi, Pakistan, engaging in collaborations with local communities through multiple artistic means and media. 2 institutes and programs working on the Anthropocene in the realm of East Asian nature cultures. One, the Intersectional Research Institute for Humanity and Nature in Kyoto, with a social science focus on environmental transformations locally and globally. And second, the Center for Anthropocene Studies at Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology in Daejeon. Other academic centers were introducing the AC's work into their research and teaching, such as the Environmental Humanities South Center at University of Cape Town, which has built a community-engaged network of critical and decolonized environmental humanities and sciences across universities all over sub-Saharan African countries, dealing with topics such as the critical zone and the politics of scientific data on water and soil. And much more is to come. Later this year, multiple events will be taking place, locally responding to the core questions, leading the program through the fall. Where is the planetary? They will be part of what we call the AC season, opening windows into these projects online. The following are being announced right now. 2 field campus events, so-called disaster hagios in Korea, one on the tourist island Jeju, another one in the demilitarized zone. Both organized by the Center for Anthropocene Studies at KAIST and the STS Disaster Network. The call for the first one is open until May 15. A campus and exhibition program on carbon in the region around Bangalore, organized by Science Gallery Bangalore with local communities, artists, and international scholars, with an open call as well running until May 15. A campus in Porto Alegre in Brazil focused on environmental philosophy and the history of knowledge practices organized by the Association for Researches and Practices in the Humanities, prepared by a series of online talks, the Cosmic Conversations. And of course, we very much hope the Anthropocene Lab and the collaborations on a Mississippi River Open School will as well play a part in this coming AC season. The guiding question for the program in October, where is the planetary, will be addressed at HKW in Berlin with a 2-day AC network meeting and public constellations in a performative setting at HKW. It will bring together different cosmologies and practices to develop models of collectively acting into the uncertain planetary futures. 5 sub-questions will guide the 5 episodes of this program. How can habitability be measured? What planetary damage can be repaired? Who gets to decide what actions are taken? And what is the horizon of the Anthropocene? With this episode also being dedicated to live writing of the future vision of the AC. From June on and into October, we will be handing over the AC project to its worldwide network and develop with the partners new working structures in the hope of achieving an even more radically decentralized future model for the collaborations to come. The idea is to write a pragmatic as well as a speculative vision for the future of the AC, a sci-fi vision of sorts that goes back to the original idea, an Anthropocene curriculum that teaches us to better sense the earth and each other, and a vision guided by the approach of collectively engaging in creating transdisciplinary, experimental, and experiential curricula, while constantly transforming and actualizing itself to respond to the pressing demands of our times. An Anthropocene curriculum that sensitizes us not only to feel the trembling of the earth, but also teaches us to respond and act upon it. We very much hope that the UIC lab Anthropocene lab will play a core role within this throughout this year and into the future with this fantastic interdisciplinary group that collaborates on building it together. I look very forward to our conversation where we might discuss the future of the lab and how it could be envisioned. And with this, I'll hand back over to Beate.